Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. My name is John Zedell. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. We review WWE Smackdown every Friday night after the final bell. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
I'm a little new to this. I was told that the road to WrestleMania begins at the Royal Rumble. I've been waiting 5 weeks, John, for some evidence of that. And I think I finally got some tonight. WWE Smackdown tonight, March 3rd, 2023, finally looked and felt like the road to WrestleMania, which now is only 4 weeks and 1 day from tonight. So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story now that we're really on the road to WrestleMania 39?
I'll tell you what, Dom, we don't ever want to bury the lead. Never, ever bury the lead. So our main event tonight is the lead. Sami Zayn loses to Solo Sikoa in a
Yes.
singles match. Pretty good match here. Obviously, the Bloodline story has been the hottest thing in wrestling in years. Continues that. And pretty good match overall. Went about 12 minutes. So, Dom, what did you think about Solo Sikoa over Sami Zayn tonight?
I was more intrigued by what did not happen in the main event.
Sure.
We did not, it was set up where, Sammy's going out there all alone. Solo's there with Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso has been told to get out there and take care of the Sami Zayn problem by Roman Reigns. They've been hinting all show that Roman is getting impatient, not so much with Jey Uso, who is not there tonight, but with Jimmy. Kind of like getting angry at Jey through Jimmy, which is typical of Roman, the Machiavellian character that he is. Jay's not there to get angry at, so he's got to take it out on somebody. He takes it out on Jimmy. So this is all set up for Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is out there all alone. Who comes and rescues Sami Zayn tonight? Are we going to see Jey Uso come out and come to Sami Zayn's defense? Are we going to see Cody Rhodes, who opened the show
I
with a
thought we might see him,
confrontation?
but
Right?
to sort of like add some dynamic to it, but no, we didn't.
Yeah, well, we're going to see Cody Rhodes come out. So this is a bloodline angle. And we didn't see any of it. We just saw Roman Reigns staying in the back with Paul Heyman, brooding as he watches the end of it, kind of happy that Solo wins, but then brooding because they can't just take out Sammy. Sammy gets no help, but, gets enough to escape through the crowd again and survive a beatdown. He doesn't survive Solo in the match, but he survives the beatdown. And now we're supposed to get, Jimmy has 1 week. Jimmy and Jay have one more week to get their act together, to fall back in line with Roman, as Roman hints.
Yeah, I'd have to say too. Ultimately, it's interesting because Sami Zayn loses tonight, and he had so much momentum, and he takes another loss. I mean, he loses to Roman, but that kind of made sense. And now he loses to Solo Sikoa. And I was thinking about the Bloodline. They don't really have anybody in their group that is a jobber. They've got Solo Sikoa, who's undefeated, and he's sort of like, he's not the main guy. And then Roman Reigns has been undefeated for 2.5 years, and then they have the longest reigning tag champs, and they're involved in a storyline here, so either of them can't lose. So I just thought it was interesting that Sami Zayn loses, and ultimately he had all this momentum 2-3 weeks ago, and now he's taken back-to-back losses.
Yeah, he has, and I thought maybe Sammy puts the first L on Solo Sikoa.
Right.
But it looks like Roman's not there yet. Like he's going down the list of people to be angry at. He's angry at Sammy, but Sammy left. So then he's got to be angry at Jay, but Jay won't return his calls. So now he's got to be angry at Jimmy, and he even snipped a little bit at the wise man in one of the backstage. I don't think they're ready for him to be angry at Solo Sikoa yet. Like they're gradually making their way down where Roman gets ticked off at everybody, except himself. So yeah, but I could have seen this turn into something where there's a distraction at ringside. Either Jay comes out or Cody comes out, and somehow Sammy gets a roll up.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they kept it as they kept it with pretty much a vanilla match. What you would normally think would happen when there's basically a one-on-one match, but there's a heel entourage member at ringside. Sammy finally turns the match to his favor late, and Jimmy finally interferes in the match itself after kind of teasing it and being a distraction. He pulls Solo out of the way of a haluva kick in the corner, and then that leads to Solo with a big shot, and then that Samoan spike for the pinfall, and then the post-match beatdown and everything. That's what you would expect. The heels have the advantage, so the heels win because of some interference. Okay, that's what you get. Solo, of course, looks strong, which is good because he should. They're not ready for him to lose yet, and they're not ready for him to lose in a gimmick. It doesn't look like. So yeah, he loses strong, but he's supposed to win. He's got his entourage out there. Sammy doesn't. He should win.
It's funny. They ultimately did the traditional, what you think, like, hey, let's make it neutral. There's interference and the heel goes over and he wins dirty. And that way nobody looks that bad.
Yep.
But, at least it was a match for the main event. We've been having promos for main events. They've had a lot more matches this time. Last SmackDown, there was tons of promos, and I was just not a giant fan of it. I understand they got a forward storylines, but I was like, wow, that's a ton of promos. So they gave us a wrestling match, and it wasn't too bad, and it did do their, it's their hot story, the Bloodline, so it's got to be in the main event.
And what a difference just the characters involved and just the layout of the show can make, because we got a ton of promos tonight, and there were only 4 matches, the last 2 of which did not go very long.
Mm-hmm.
So this was not a match, a show full of wrestling. The opening segment goes about 20 minutes. The first match, the bell rings at about 8:26. We start at 8 p.m. here in New Jersey, where we're watching and recording from. That's not a heavy wrestling show, really. We finally get our second match over the bottom of the show, which is the 9:00 hour. Then we get a very short match later, and then we get this last match, which again about 12 minutes, which isn't. That's not a short match, but there was a little bit of a brawl before the bell rang. And then, of course, the match ends, and then there's several minutes afterwards where they have to do other stuff. So this wasn't a terribly long match either, and with a commercial break in the middle. So we don't really get much more wrestling today than we did, say, last week. But it felt different, didn't it? This felt like bigger matches because of who was involved with them, and it felt like the road to WrestleMania.
I think also you have to take into consideration for the opening promo, you haven't seen Cody or Roman Reigns face to face.
Nope.
Yeah.
Never.
So you get to see that. So you're like, okay, this is a promo I want to see. I've been wanting to see this one. And I almost said that was going to be the lead, but I don't really think they did too much. No. I don't think they did too much. where I was like, wow, this is going to be crazy. There's going to be a triple threat, or it's going to be this type of match. You know, it didn't really change the dynamic. It probably just at least is like, okay, this is the heel, this is the face. Say a couple things back and forth, and you know, you'll understand that these two don't like each other, or at least they're building something.
They're trying to, because these guys, like you said, they have no history.
There isn't much of a rivalry or reason.
You know, and Roman even brings it up. You know, he says, how many times, you know, he at one point during that opening segment, Roman puts the belts down on the mat between Cody and himself. He went out to the ring with Heyman, Solo, and Jimmy. Cody came down in a suit and said, I just came down here to have a conversation, 1-to-1, you know, man to man. So Roman sends everybody else out of the ring and away from ringside. So it really is just Cody and Roman face to face. And it hits you that, yeah, these guys have no history.
No.
Cody's never been in the title picture. He's never been a rival of Roman's. Roman has never been a rival of Cody's. The only thing they have in common is something they're having to catch up the whole audience. Roman was trained by Dusty Rhodes. Okay. But that's a lot to have to build. You know, this still feels like they're trying very, very hard to give Cody Rhodes the necessary, I'm going to say it, gravitas to headline WrestleMania. Because Roman has it.
Oh, yeah.
Roman Reigns has it. But Cody does so far. He's been back in WWE less than a year. It was after WrestleMania 38 that he made his return. I think it was April 4th or so they said he made his return. That sounds like maybe a Monday Raw date, that it would have been a Monday of last year. It was either the Monday right before Mania or maybe right after it. But he hasn't been back very long. He was injured for a big portion of it. They've still got to sell me that Cody in that match. At least, and that's just me. A little different opinion. That's fine. Comment, tell us if I'm wrong. But to me, they've still got it. You can't just dress a guy in a suit and make him, you know, look like he's Ric Flair from the 80s, style and profile, and just be better than everybody because he dresses like $1 million. You know, you've got to do more than that to convince me that this guy should be the main event in WrestleMania. And I will give them credit. It's at least starting for the SmackDown fans tonight. But, you know, we're 4 weeks away. Let's see what they can do. But at least we did. We got a Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns stare down, face back and forth on the mic. Seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, let's jump into that. I think it's kind of a
sure.
I just was watching it. I'm like, this is good enough. You understand that they don't like each other. There was a lot of reaction from the crowd, and they let it set in. Maybe let it set in a little too much because they were pretty slow with some of their. I guess their back and forth was pretty drawn out. They weren't saying a whole ton either. But you know, a lot of times you get the angry pacing back and forth promo or anything like that, but they were pretty stoic and standing still and just face to face. But I thought it at least, you know, I don't think it was that earth shattering.
No,
the promo. I don't think it was like, wow, this is really building to something crazy. And Roman, you know, it really kind of set up Roman to hit him with some shots, which I don't really think Roman's bread and butter is that insulting heel type. You know, I think he's more the dominant powerhouse manipulative guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Cody was sort of setting him up to knock him down about his dad not being around or whatever, but he didn't lay into him like a traditional asshole heel, let's just say. But
no physicality.
Yeah, they'll hold off till WrestleMania.
Here we go. They'll hold off. I've said gravitas and physicality. This has been a good first 15 minutes. So Rome fighting a two-front war. I'm sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it looks like Roman Reigns is now fighting a two-front war. Yeah, the thing about not bringing Cody and Sammy together means that Roman is distracted a bit. He's got Cody, he's got Sammy, so that's a little intrigue there. Um, People who have been watching Raw, which is not me, although I do sometimes see some clips that they put out. Uh, the content of tonight's opening segment that ran 20 minutes was almost nothing new. This is everything that Heyman has been trying to plant the seeds with Cody on Raw, apparently. This was so if you watch both shows, maybe you're bored by this. But if you're just a SmackDown viewer, it's good to hear this part of the story. And I think it's the visual. It's not Cody and Heyman. It's Cody and Roman Reigns.
Mhm.
That's what you want to see.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom. At least we got the promo. It's pretty traditional stuff. I did want to point out one thing.
Sure.
The entrances sometimes are like starting to wear on me.
Okay.
And I mean, Roman Reigns has the huge entrance and everybody's into the song and everything. And then Cody Rhodes comes out and he's doing the huge entrance. And you're like, I think they started talking at 8:08. So it was 8 or 9 minutes of them playing the song. And if you watch it a lot, like, yeah, I've heard it before. I hear it every Friday, not necessarily Cody's, but I hear the Roman Reigns theme song. And he should have the big entrance. But, some of the wrestlers, I'm like, the songs are more over than the wrestlers sometimes,
Yeah, right.
When the crowd, like, I think Seth Rollins specifically, every time I see him at a pay-per-view, the crowd's going crazy singing his song. And once he starts wrestling, it's like, okay,
Well, and that can be it's good that people resonate with some part of the show and with some of the character development, but it could also be a problem if once the wrestling starts, it's deflating. I hope we don't get to that. And one of the great things about what we saw at Elimination Chamber 2 weeks ago was that people were into the match.
Yeah.
Not the entrances, not the holograms,
No.
not the sing-alongs. They were into the match. That's what you need from WrestleMania. I mean, people should be into the match, or maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, and WrestleMania is just the most pop culture-y of all the WWE PLVs, and this is the one where the matches really matter the least. And maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe I've got it completely backwards. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we're not the crowd for WrestleMania. They're trying to get everybody else that they could potentially get. And then suddenly it's just a rock concert kind of where there's just music and people are singing along to the music, I don't know. Well, anyways, I think, the main event was solid, better than usual. And if you're going to do the long promo in the beginning of the show, which I always hate, but if you're going to do it, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, they both kind of feel like stars. They feel like they're in the right place. I think, I'll be excited when the match comes, and maybe there is a lot of time now where they're going to be sitting around not doing anything for the next 3 weeks. So maybe they're trying to keep it slow here, but before they get physical or before they're involved in a tag match or whatever. But
they look like stars.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what the rest of the show had going forward as well. So where do you want to go next? Because there were stars on this show. There were some returns to SmackDown of people we hadn't seen in a while. Other matches, another big in-ring segment, and a backstage interview around the IC title picture. Another pretty good reintroduction to SmackDown from Bobby Lashley. So Where do you want to go next? Because there were a lot of stars on this show. It felt bigger.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with Bobby Lashley there, people crossing over from Raw to SmackDown. I
Yep.
mean, we've only really seen Cody Rhodes and Bobby Lashley in pay-per-views. We only watched SmackDown, and we saw them cross over tonight.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, okay, these are the big guys. This is not Karrion Kross. This is not, Madcap Moss or I'm just naming some of the mid-card guys that you see kind of on SmackDown. You're some pretty big dudes. We saw Lashley and we saw Cody Rhodes. Well, I guess we could just touch on some of the vignette. Maybe we could talk about the vignettes or promos and then get into the matches. So,
okay, what did you think was the biggest thing next after this two-front war that Roman Reigns is now fighting, and what's happening with the Bloodline?
I wanted to say something real random that I thought was pretty cool was Sami Zayn promo vignette when he has the selfie, when he's taking the selfie video of himself and he's going through the crowd, and the crowd is holistically screaming Sammy at him because they're just like getting popcorn and getting a beer, so they're freaking out. I was like, this is pretty creative. This is actually a good idea. Something where you get a unique shot of him. He's like talking about how he's going to take the Bloodline down, and you're getting the momentum from the crowd that he has. And he's walking through the crowd as he's doing it. So they're like, oh yeah, oh damn, he's here, and they're like, Sammy, and they're all trying to get the shot. So I thought that was a pretty creative vignette. Usually it's just back in the locker room, or there's a video, or there's a brawl in the back. But this one was at least
we got one of those, yeah.
Oh my god!
This was good. The success of the Sami Zayn in the Bloodline angle has been that it's totally organic.
Yeah,
this was supposed to last, I heard, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And it lasted, it's lasted now the better part of a year, of a calendar year here. It's been spontaneous order, and the crowd has been behind it. So this was really a cool thing to do, and it's probably the thing that you would do for Sami Zayn and maybe no one else, because it may not work with anyone else.
Sure.
Let's do a little trading places. This will be fun.
Yeah.
If Sammy wearing a finely tailored 3-piece suit and Cody Rhodes was trying to, rah with a selfie stick, live streaming himself going through the arena, would that trading places have worked? Well, I say no. I say there's no way that Cody Rhodes gets that kind of a spontaneous order reaction from the crowd, and I say there's no way that Sammy can be dressed up to be that clean cut of a perfectly put together potential champ like they're doing with Cody. So they found the thing with each of those guys that's resonating most with the crowd. Cody is almost like this second generation, it's my time, almost anointed type of figure, and Sammy as the everyman who's, he's beloved by the people at the grassroots level.
Mm-hmm. Right, which is interesting because Cody was 2, 3, 4 years ago the grassroots guy.
Really? Okay.
AEW, and I mean he started AEW. He was in New Japan. He was more of a grassrooty guy because he left the WWE and then developed himself. And now he's the top star. And now Sami Zayn's kind of getting that grassroots crowd.
Did you hear that reference in Cody's promo in the opening segment tonight?
Yeah.
He references his indie show with his friends that 10,000 people paid to see.
Yes.
So that on a Vince McMahon show, letting someone brag about their success business-wise, not just wrestling-wise, but business-wise.
You would think
in an
that
indie promotion
to trash it, if anything.
No, they didn't trash it all. Like, they didn't have Roman go, sure, that's nothing. They didn't have him just punk it out.
Yeah, that's the minor leagues or something like that, or whatever. Now you're in the majors.
Yeah, no,
Um,
there was none of that.
yeah. So,
So
um,
cool vignette there. Anything else you wanted to say about that, or do you have someone else you want to go to next who looked like a star?
um, well, if we're talking promos and we're talking vignettes, we'll combine the two. That one I really
Okay.
liked. Bobby Lashley comes out. You're like, oh, cool, it's Bobby Lashley. But we got to get Bray Wyatt. You know,
That's the match, though. Like they teased that for us already. That's the match. You kind of knew when Bobby came out, it was going to be something with Bray Wyatt.
you know what's funny? I saw him on that he was on Monday Night Raw. So I was like, oh, maybe they did just ditch him and we don't have to see him anymore. Nope, we got a double dose on Monday night and Friday night. Let's give them
Yep.
doubly, Matt. Let's just really push and see how much we can make this show, try to force this guy to get over in the last
Yep.
6 months of watching him. Yeah, Lashley's cool. He comes out, and then you're like, oh no, he's with Bray Wyatt. And the strangest thing about that promo was it cut off, and then it go immediately into the bloodline angle. So there was no transition. It was like Uncle Howdy comes out, and he does God knows what. There's the lights go off. There's all this weird lighting. I don't know, stupid Bray Wyatt things, and then that ends, and it immediately jumps to the bloodline in the backstage. I was like, what? You
They
know?
may have been running short on time
Oh,
because that opening segment went quite long. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, Bobby Lashley gets out there. Not much of a talker, but he's Bobby Lashley. He's been the world champ. He's an imposing figure in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he gets attacked by Uncle Howdy, but turns the tables. Lashley setting up for the spear when, as you mentioned, the lights go out. And then the lights come back on, and Uncle Howdy has disappeared. And it's just Bobby Lashley in the ring. And then, yeah, they don't spend a lot of time transitioning us out of that. It's just okay. We got to move. Bloodline stuff coming up, and we got our main event match. So yeah, we get to see Bobby Lashley. We don't see Bray Wyatt. We see Uncle Howdy. And I don't know. The match isn't supposed to be Bobby Lashley, Uncle Howdy. I don't think. So we still haven't seen Bobby and Bray face off, at least in the ring. But at the same point, this feels like WrestleMania. This feels like the road to WrestleMania. So
Yeah. So let's stick on the topic. We're talking stars here. And anybody that you had in mind that felt like a star tonight.
Match of the night, the first one, Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan.
Yeah, I got some notes about that one. That was
I liked
probably
it.
the match of the night.
Rhea Ripley comes out and she wins without Dominic's help. He's out there, and I like that they're putting him out there with her as her kind of valet because he's a heat magnet, and it seems like they want Rhea to go into WrestleMania as the heel. And maybe they're afraid that if she's by herself, people will start cheering for her because she is kind of cool.
Yeah, right.
And she is a great wrestler.
Yeah.
But they're trying to keep her heel. Liv comes out and Liv is now doing the Ricochet mold from the fall. Liv Morgan this calendar year has since January, she's the one who put over Raquel Rodriguez in a really good match on SmackDown that made Raquel look strong before Raquel went for a title shot against Ronda. Liv had another match with Raquel where she put her over going into Royal Rumble, where they were teasing the 30-woman Royal Rumble match. Liv faces Asuka one-on-one to hype up Elimination Chamber and loses clean to Asuka, but still looks good. And then tonight, it's Rhea Ripley's first match on SmackDown since challenging the SmackDown Women's Champion after winning the Royal Rumble. And it's Liv Morgan who's out there. And this is a really good match. And I think it's a really good match for Rhea because Liv is quick. Liv bumps, but she's quick and she strikes. And so Rhea had to keep up with that pace. Eventually, Rhea starts hitting her power moves. and wins this match. Kind of a creative way to. It was like a sort of a 3 moves of doom here. Liv comes off the top, but Rhea kind of catches her and turns it into a somewhat of a power bombish move. Defensively, though, like swats her down as Liv comes off the top rope. Maybe like she was going for a drop kick or something. Liv does missile drop kicks. Then Rhea picks her up into that riptide pump handle slam. And then that goes into a cloverleaf that she then turns over and gets the submission win. So Rhea showing us a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, that whole transition.
What stands out to you, man? Liv loses, but Liv doesn't look bad here. And in fact, because it's Rhea beating Liv and not somebody else on the roster of lesser stature, this looks like a big deal.
Yeah. The transition at the end, I really liked, and you just laid it out perfectly. And things I really liked about it was Rhea Ripley destroyed her when she caught her and powerbombed her. She didn't just like place her down.
Yeah.
I mean, she took her down with authority. She does the pump handle slam. And I've said this a bunch of other times before, but I like when they utilize this. So, men are stronger than women. So it's men should typically be doing the strength stuff, but women are typically more flexible. So when they do the Texas Cloverleaf, it looks really nasty because the way that her body's bent back. So when that's really using the strength of women is flexibility. So if you are flexible, it's like her head is on the mat and her body, her back is bent so wildly far back as she's doing the cloverleaf, but it really works. It looks horrible, but I'm sure for her, she has the flexibility where she can take it. So I like when in women's matches, they utilize flexibility and they are the more flexible sex. So I'd have to say, that would be my hot take on that match is I like the that she utilized the flexibility. And then in addition to that, I like the finish and that Rhea was looking like a monster out there.
She was looking like a monster. No help from her valet on the outside. She won clean, and she won as a bigger wrestler, and she was doing the big wrestler things all match. Like it took a lot for Liv to get her off her feet.
Yeah, she was doing
as it should. Right. It should take a lot to get Rhea Ripley off her feet, and Liv is hitting her with drop kicks. Great knee lift in the corner. I've noticed sometimes that when Liv does that running knee into the corner, it sometimes doesn't look like she's able to really lay it in there. But against a big, tall wrestler like Rhea, Liv can just spring up onto that second rope and raise that knee, and it looks like, she caught her. So being able to do some of these moves against a big, strong wrestler like Rhea, it made it so that Liv didn't have to hold back. Now, eventually, Liv does get a near fall here or there. She does that second turnbuckle move where she jumps up and does that inverted back cracker. I mean, do you want to call it a face cracker? That's the move, though. The back cracker. You jump with your knees into the opponent's back, and then you drop to the mat with them, and then the impact of their back against your knees as you hit the mat just jolts all that force into your opponent. Well, Liv does that inverted where she hits the opponent's front. And then it becomes like a chest cracker or a face cracker. I mean, she really caught Rhea. It looked great. I mean, it's the kind of thing that probably doesn't hurt Rhea badly, but it looked great when Liv executed it. And she did get a near fall after.
That's Chris Jericho in WWE. That was his old finisher, the Code Breaker.
Code Breaker.
Yeah. So that is neither here nor there. But I mean, yeah, I noticed that was a pretty good spot as well. Yeah, for sure. So, and kudos to them for putting together a good match after the Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns promo. It's a big act to follow. The WrestleMania main event, they're finally seeing each other. Then we go right into this. That could easily have been the bathroom break, right? Because the promo.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, that could have been okay, bathroom break. But no, it wasn't the bathroom break. It was the best match of the night.
And it felt like the road to WrestleMania. Like Rhea Ripley is, yeah, she looks like someone who should be challenging Charlotte Flair for the title.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is what we wanted to see. Rhea comes out on SmackDown, has a great looking match against a formidable opponent. Yes, finally.
Yeah, well done.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then, so I guess really just to transition here, we had that match, and then we kind of roll into Dominic Mysterio versus, is it Delgado? What's his name?
Santos Escobar, they keep announcing him as from Legado del Fantasma, but we didn't see anybody else from the faction tonight, which makes me wonder if maybe the faction wasn't working, but they think Santos Escobar is working better with the crowd and with the program. But yeah, so they confront Santos confronts Dominic and Rhea backstage and challenges Dominic to a match, and the chicken heel accepts and comes out for it. And let's just say that I was impressed by how well Dominic wrestled in this match. He does get the win with some help from Rhea because they are doing the heel finish for him. As much as they didn't want to have interference for Rhea because Rhea can't look weak, they're willing to have Dominic look weak by getting a win because he gets help. And you mentioned sometimes the women don't always do the power moves. The interference here from Rhea is that while the ref is distracted, Rhea pulls Santos Escobar out to the floor and hits him first with, I think, a strike and then the pump handle slam on the floor, then picks him up and throws him back in the ring. So how about Santos Escobar taking those bumps? And how about Rhea Ripley, pump handle slamming a legitimate male superstar?
Shades of China, right? From the
Right.
90s.
And we're getting those promos all through. I don't know what you were seeing on your, but I'm watching on Fox's website, and I'm getting promos for the China documentary that they're pushing. So yeah. And I thought of that. I'm like, yeah, Rhea can she can toss around some of the light heavyweights.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I liked how they set it up too, because that spot at the end where it looked like they got injured, so they went head to head.
Yep.
And they both went down, and it felt like they did a spot like this in Elimination Chamber too, where it looked like there was a legit injury. So they faked the legit injury, and helmet to helmet is always comes to mind for me. Like in football, that's always a thing, and you see somebody go down. And they went head to head, and they both were like out of it on the ground. And they're like, well, they look like they're hurt. And then it's really that he's getting the weapon in his hand,
Yep.
But
it's a good spot.
I was pretty fooled, honestly. So kudos to them for that. And in addition, I thought I was pretty surprised. I mean, not surprised, but Dom's come a long way from a guy we didn't want to watch to a legit good chicken shit heel.
And in this match, he looked pretty good as a wrestler too. I mean, he wins with the frog splash off the top turnbuckle. I mean, it wasn't one of those, halfway across the ring frog splashes, but it was well executed. He hit it, got the pinfall. He was doing other, not only maneuvers, but taking bumps. I mean, he looked like a decent wrestler in this match as well.
It's got to be kudos to Escobar because we've seen him in the past. And I think we saw him in a match in some tournaments where he's wrestled pretty well. He
was in the World Cup.
Yeah, and just he can go. He's good in the ring. So you have a guy. He's a little lost right now. He's a face. He's kind of thrown around the factions. So you put him up against Dom, who is an inferior wrestler to him, but he's got kind of the momentum and the heat right now as the heel. They have a good thing going there. So good combo. And yeah, Dominic Mysterio finally starting to click after years of not years, maybe it has been years really, where they had him in as just kind of next to Ray. And they're
But they're
really,
still playing that up, though.
oh yeah. Has that been official? Has that match been announced? Rey Mysterio versus
For
Dominic?
WrestleMania, I don't know, but post-match, they went through that again. Dominic leaves with the mask that Rey had gifted Santos Escobar. Because they had been using that as a prop during the match. Santos Escobar is saying, has him in the corner and put his face up to the mask and saying, "Do you respect your legacy?" And Dominic spits on the mask and goes, "No!" And they catch it on the mobile camera there. And then later on, they use it again where Dominic is gesturing to the mask. Like, that's my legacy. That's my legacy, but this is me, or whatever he's doing. And then he steals it on the way out. Rey comes out to confront him, tries to take it. Dominic won't give it to him, finally just throws it on the ground. And as Rey's going to pick it up, Dominic gives him a shot. So they're still trying to keep alive this program with Dominic and Rey. I don't know how much steam that has left in it, other than finally having Rey hit him and get into a match with him.
They're really milking that. They're like, he won't
are.
hit him, and then everybody's like, hit him, and if he won't hit him, he won't hit him. That's good old man wrestling stuff. And I say old man, it's just like, let's build that little aspect of it of like, he's Rey Mysterio, he could probably get anything over, and right now he is getting over that he won't punch his son, and one day he will. And tune in for when he does punch his son. So yeah, that's just good. That's a good sign for his legacy in general, that he's able to get something like that over. Because right now, it'd be like, if that was some lesser known people, this would not be nearly as interesting. But they're building it, right? So
and they have a history. Like, Dominic grew up in the business. He and Rey apparently tagged together years ago and won the tag titles briefly. The first father and son tag team champions. So yeah, there's been some sort of uh, storyline before that involves the two of them together, and they're trying to use this to, I guess, break Dominic off as his own wrestler, his own character, his own man, whatever. That's worked, and I find it interesting that they're still plowing ahead with the whole Rey versus Dominic thing, because it's almost getting to the point in my eyes where they could just drop that angle now. Like, we get it. Like, Dominic's now got his own thing going on. Like, it worked. You split off those two as a tag team.
yeah,
You split them off as sort of father and son. The father's watching over the son. Dominic's got his own storylines that he's doing. He's got his own matches. He's got his own heat. So I don't think they need to keep going back to this, but they seem to want to. So I'll go along for the ride with them and see where this plays out.
the payoff's got to be in WrestleMania. They have a match at WrestleMania, and Dom goes over, and that's sort of the handing. That's maybe because Rey Mysterio has been successful for as long as he has. He called his shots, and he's just like, hey, I'm gonna bring my son on, and we're gonna build this whole thing up, and then have him turn heel, or it happened holistically. I don't know, but it's headed in the right direction, and I feel like Rey can kind of what is that called? Passing of the guard? No,
Passing the torch in a bit, maybe.
Passing the torch. That's what I meant. He's sort of passing the torch, to Dom, and then Dom can go from there. Dominic, you're Dom. He's Dominic.
We spell our names differently outside of the DOM.
Okay.
Everybody goes DOM, and then after that, it's a crapshoot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It could be a variety of different things.
You got it.
All right. So, anything else you want to touch on for specifically Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio?
Both of their storylines are working separately and still together. I think there's legs to everything. But now, obviously, I'm more interested in Rhea than in Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but that being said, seeing the younger Mysterio out there tonight was not, you like, oh my goodness, him again. Because last week it got a little bit like that. Like, why is he out here again? But week,
Right.
I think the way they used him this week, it it was heat for the right reasons. And he got to do more than just be the annoying guy on the outside. They got in the ring and he wrestled, and even though he got some help, he got a pinfall. So I like where each of them are going separately. I like where they're going together. Rhea's got a WrestleMania match and deserves it. I don't know. They haven't told us yet that they're pulling the Mysterio versus Mysterio trigger for WrestleMania. But if they do, okay. If not, I don't need that one. But the Rhea thing I wanted to see, the Dominic versus Ray thing continuing. I could take it or leave it.
Right. Well, I was curious about this one. What did you think of the promo with all kinds of people in the mid card trying to put themselves over and trying to get a match in WrestleMania? Can you name all the wrestlers that were involved with this little segment here, or did
Absolutely, even though I didn't write them down because I can go through the reactions as they came out. Drew McIntyre comes out, hits the ring, and he's talking about how he doesn't have a WrestleMania 39 match. He wants Gunther for the IC title. And I'm thinking, okay, this will be good. Then Sheamus comes out to confront Drew, and he's saying, this is, how much that belt means to me. And then Drew's got to tell him, look, you had your chances and you lost. And that's right. He did. And then the music hits and it's LA Knight. And I'm going, yes! Yes! He's not buried yet. He's not buried yet. For one more week, they're going to pretend that they have an idea for him. Yes, he's coming out. It looks like they're talking about the IC belt. LA Knight comes out, and I love it. And then New Day's music hit, and I go, no! Get them off of my TV! No! And so Kofi comes out with Xavier Woods, and then eventually Karrion Kross. And I went, okay. Let's see where this goes. And Karrion Kross comes out clean shaven. Clean shaven. He went from you to me in his look a little bit there. So Karrion Kross comes out clean shaven. Now we got 6 guys in. No, we got 5 guys in the ring. Karrion Kross and Scarlett on the outside, and suddenly we get a mini brawl. And everybody's on the outside after Drew McIntyre does that somersault dive onto both members of New Day and LA Knight. And then that's when Karrion Kross enters the ring, sneaks up behind Sheamus, throws him into the ring post. Now they're all out of the ring, and it's Karrion Kross standing tall in the ring. I like that segment because I like when we see that belts matter, and having all these guys come out and be like, no, I want that IC title. I want my shot. And that they want it at WrestleMania. Let's talk a little the history of the IC belt, the recent history of the IC belt. It has not been defended on a pay-per-view premium live event in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Not at Elimination Chamber, not at Royal Rumble, not at Survivor Series, not at Crown Jewel, not at Extreme Rules, not at the big match of the SummerSlam, and not at WrestleMania 38. Last time this belt was on a pay-per-view premium live event card was Clash at the Castle 2022 when Gunther beat Sheamus. Well, that was considered a great card. That pay-per-view took place over in Great Britain. So, big deal to have Sheamus on the card. Yeah, so big deal to have Sheamus on that card. Yeah.
This is before we started watching SmackDown.
Right before we started watching, yes.
But I heard that was like up for match of the year.
Yeah.
So that was supposed to be a really good one. And yeah, Gunther's been our favorite since, and it's good that they put a segment together where we're kind of interested in seeing like who is going to get the shot at the IC title. But interesting, I did not realize they never really defended on the pay-per-view. It's kind of like a TV title here.
It is. It's become the TV belt, which is great for us because we watch TV. It's great for us watching SmackDown. We see a lot of IC title, which means a lot of Gunther. So a lot of great wrestling. But yeah, last time this belt was at WrestleMania was WrestleMania 37 in 2021. So, hey, a coming out party for the IC belt at WrestleMania 39, hopefully, and also for Gunther. Because the IC belt hasn't been on one of these pay-per-views in a big match, it means Gunther's not been on a pay-per-view in a big match. Yes, he was in Royal Rumble and had that tremendous performance. So we got to see him there. And he was at one of the other pay-per-views with Imperium against the Brawling Brutes. It was a 6-man tag. But because we don't get this belt on pay-per-views a lot, we don't get a lot of Gunther. So I want to see Gunther get his WrestleMania moment. I want to see the IC belt have a WrestleMania moment. And I think any one of the people who are in the ring tonight, except for New Day, would be a worthy opponent for WrestleMania 39 and Gunther. Even if they push Karrion Kross, I think Karrion Kross and Gunther would have a good match. Even if they, like in 4 weeks, push him. But either Sheamus or Drew or LA Knight, yeah.
So our boy, LA Knight, he got a pretty good pop from the crowd with the yeah. And then New Day came out and they just imitated him poorly.
A little bit. Yeah.
And I was like, that's it? Like, this is your baby face? Like this like lame imitation of the heel that's over? I don't know.
New Day is miscast. They seem out of place in this era of WWE. The goofy, snarky baby face is kind of out.
Yeah. This is something that New Day came in and Vince made them like gospel church people, and it wasn't getting over at all.
Okay.
And they were trying to do like New Day rocks, and then the crowd was chanting New Day sucks. So they turned heel, and they were really good heel, like excellent promos as heel.
Okay.
And then they were so over as heels that they turned them face because they were just way too over as heels. So that's kind of there. And then they have been in this gimmick for years now, and it's just stale as hell, and nobody seems to care. And it's all the trumpet stuff, and they throw pancakes, and I don't know. It just they've been doing it for years, and it's the same goofy gimmick. And it does, at this point, feel out of place for kind of like a regular traditional wrestling show that they're kind of having on SmackDown, which we like. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't need them to act so foolish and goofy. Mm-hmm. So
they even got Sami Zayn away from that. Right? Like the new breed of babyface is Drew McIntyre. It's Cody Rhodes. Does Cody Rhodes look like a guy who's out there doing silly, smarmy stuff? And even Sami Zayn now goes from being the guy who's awkwardly trying to be the yes man and earn his boss's approval to now Sami is as over as he's ever been as the guy who's finally standing up for himself and not being just a goofball.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. Maybe New Day is the last ones that are trying to hang on to the goofball babyface thing. And, I can never tell if that's canned crowd cheers being pumped in for them or if the live audience really likes them. But they're the last ones who seem to be doing that and are being presented as like legit baby faces doing the joke around stuff.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And it could be pumped in noise as well, but all the other guys except for New Day did pretty well. Not sure if there's anything else to touch on about the show that we missed. Is there anything
there was one more match that and it was supposed to be a tag team match, But they went for, we mentioned backstage brawls before. They gave us a backstage segment where there was apparently a brawl in which Ronda Rousey was injured. So tonight's Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Tegan Nox and Natalya match gets switched to one-on-one Shayna Baszler versus Tegan Nox, with the who were supposed to be their tag team partners in their corners, though. And Shayna wins pretty quickly with an armbar. And, you can hear the voices as they're going to commercial after the match. It sounds like Tegan Nox is saying, they broke my arm, they broke my arm. And I wonder if they did this to avoid some of the really smart marky chants that Ronda's been getting in her matches lately.
Right.
Like you noted that we were getting some "you can't wrestle" chants, and so maybe they said, like, we really don't need that tonight. Just make it Shayna versus Tegan.
Yeah.
Unless Ronda's legit injured and the backstage brawl thing, because they didn't show us the brawl, they just showed us people, sprawled out on the concrete backstage in the aftermath of the brawl. So maybe she was legit hurt for some reason and couldn't wrestle tonight. I don't know, but whatever the case, we wind up with, and Shayna looks like Shayna. Tegan is not the best opponent for her because Tegan looks frail. Okay.
Did Tegan Nox, is that the person, is it Tegan Nox? Is that her name?
Tegan Nox.
Is that the person that came back and we didn't know who she was? And they made a big deal because it was her comeback?
There have been a few of those, yes. Tegan Nox did come out to help Natalya a week or two ago when Shayna and Ronda went into a 2-on-1 against her.
You know what was weird? She came out tonight and Natalya's music hit and she just came out with her.
Yeah, like Tegan has no music.
They're just like, hey, it's like Natty. It's like the next Natty. I guess they're just trying to, because you would recognize Natalya, but
yeah,
we didn't know who Tegan Nox is, and I don't think many people do. I don't think if people were flipping through the channels and they stop in, they're like, oh, there's Tegan Nox. I don't think that's happening.
Well, the problem is they did nothing in tonight's show to make us want to be interested in Tegan Nox. She kind of gets squashed in a match that doesn't appear to be her style, that brawling submission striking style.
Right.
She comes out to someone else's music. If they want us to care about Tegan Nox, this wasn't the way to do it. Like, I'm not saying she has to win, but this, if you're still trying to figure out who is Tegan Nox, you don't get a lot of information tonight.
No, you do not.
So, that's what we got for our shortest match of the night, which, we speak about last because of our 4 matches, that was the 4th. It wasn't a terrible match, but it was the 4th best of the 4. And it involved people that they didn't do a whole lot of good putting over. Like in the main event match, Solo beats Sammy, but Sammy looks good, especially with what happens post-match. In the match of the night, which happened first, Rhea beats Liv, but Liv looks good. And Rhea looks like $1 million. So, like, kudos to both of them for all they accomplished in that match. In the Santos Escobar Dominic Mysterio match, Dominic wins, but Santos doesn't look bad. And they each look like there could be something there. I mean, maybe with Santos, the fact that they're bringing him out there as a singles competitor without the faction. But this match, Shayna Baszler against Tegan Nox, I don't know what this does for either of them. They already beat up Tegan Nox and Natalya in past weeks. I don't get it. I get that you may want to have another feather in the cap of Shayna Baszler, but is Tegan Nox the feather in the cap here?
I know.
So this is the only match that did not feel like Road to WrestleMania tonight. Every other segment, every other match felt like, yeah, okay, we're 4 weeks from WrestleMania 39. It's March 3rd, and time is getting there.
Yeah, and I had notes for this match, and I wrote bathroom break.
Okay.
I just was like, okay, we got the main event coming up. You know, it's 10 minutes away. It's like 9:36. Take a little bathroom break before the main event. So yeah,
before the Gunther interview and before the Bobby Lashley reemergence on SmackDown.
I like the Gunther.
So they tried to quickly force in some stuff after this match. Maybe that's why this match was so short too. Maybe they turned this into a one-on-one because they're like, look, we can't let this go. We can't let this be a long developing tag match. We need to move here. There's going to be a backstage brawl. One of you's hurt. Shayna, you just squash Tegan.
Yeah, they might be pressed for time, but
Gunther gives a pretty good interview. They're letting him do more of his own mic work. That immediately follows this match. Gunther backstage interview. It's not Kaiser getting on the mic and doing it. It's not Vinci getting on the mic. They just stand behind him in their poses, and it's Gunther the whole time answering the questions in the interview. I thought Gunther sounded pretty well. He sounded to me and probably to you baby faces. Like, yeah, he cares about the belt. He cares about the wrestling, and he wants a worthy opponent for WrestleMania. I'm like, yeah. Yes, I'm with you. Yeah, like, oh yeah, he's the heel. Oh, I guess I have to boo that.
The only reason that you would think he is a heel is because he's got a foreign accent, but that would be the only reason. I mean, that would be old school Vince stuff, like, oh, he's German. He must be evil because he's German. I'm like, they're allies of ours. What are you talking about? But
you're right.
But yeah, so yeah, I've lived in Germany. I was in Germany for an old job and was there for several weeks at a time in a year. And no, we're cool. It's not 1945, But ultimately, Gunther, I was pretty impressed with the promo. He sounded good. He just laid it out, and it was kind of an old school one where it seemed like it went off the top of his head, and he just said, I'm looking for an opponent at WrestleMania. So I liked it.
So we're in sync there. We like that they're letting Gunther have more promo opportunities.
Yeah.
And if they want him to be a heel, unfortunately that cuts down who can win this fatal 5-way they've announced for next week. Like, it's got to be a babyface, right, to face Gunther. Although, if they're open to just throwing maybe 2 heels in there and letting the crowd sort it out, then that opens up more possibilities. But Drew McIntyre has almost been anointed to have a really tough match with Gunther at WrestleMania. But we'll see what they let happen after the Donnybrook that we saw right after. Let's see the post match there with Ray, sort of early in our second hour.
Right. I mean, Dom, we are doing the Italian goodbye. We kind of started it a little bit here. I said you have anything else. So
I don't think we've Italian goodbye yet. We're still sticking with the program. We could do an Italian goodbye if you want.
Which means the show goes for an extra 25 minutes.
Yeah, forever.
But we're starting it. We're anything else from the show stick out to you?
From the telecast, no. I think we covered everything that needed to be covered. It finally feels like this is the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah. This was a best SmackDown I think we've seen in a couple weeks. It's really been dragging a little bit. I know there's been a lot of different. I mean, last week there was just so many promos that were so below average, and it just drug and drug. And I was like, we got to talk about this for an hour. But tonight felt like it kind of flew by. I was like, I have stuff written down on my notes that I wanted to talk about.
Go for it. Go for it.
No, I mean, I've already talked about them. I meant in general.
Okay.
I actually had stuff I wanted to talk about. And then also, we cannot compete with Jim Cornette. So when a show is bad, we can't bury it like he does. So we're not good at burying the show as good as Jim Cornette. So I just can't compete. We've tried.
We admitted when we saw the worst SmackDown in several months 8 days before Elimination Chamber.
I'm just saying there is already that carved target audience is watching Jim Cornette, and we're not going to get that audience. So when we have the bad shows, it's tough for us to get through it. But tonight was an improvement. So kudos to Vince McMahon for booking this show pretty well tonight.
Did it seem Vince-ish to you tonight?
Well, I'd have to say
20-minute talking segment to open the show. That's okay. But anything else seemed Vince-ish to you?
The 20-minute segment to open the show. Other aspects of it seems to be Cole has had a lot of freedom without him there, and it's been a little bit better. But tonight, I can just sort of hear him repeating things over and over. He says things and then says them again. So he'll say something along the lines of like, "Wow, this is fantastic." Yep, fantastic. And he'll double say things. Like you can hear Vince in his ear, and he'll say them twice. And he fills dead air with nonsense. Like he'll feel like he doesn't let things breathe. He is constantly talking, so you'll hear Cole talk a little bit more. And this could be because he doesn't have a great chemistry yet with Bad News Barrett. And then maybe we're still working that chemistry out. But it feels like Cole's a little agitated, which tells me somebody's back in his ear.
So either somebody's back in his ear, or they just got inside his head,
or Vince is there, and just because he's there, he's like having flash PTSD of him in his ear, telling him, "Laugh, damn it, laugh." It's not wrestler; it's an entertainer, sports entertainer.
Superstars,
right?
Superstars and divas.
Divas. Yes. Exactly. So maybe that's the only two things that really stick out.
We have not gotten the divification of, say, Rhea Ripley.
True.
Because I've heard even people like Vince Russo, another Vince, saying that apparently he said that Rhea might be better losing the goth shtick.
Which is crazy.
And I was like, well, but that's what makes her interesting.
Yeah.
In a way.
You said it earlier. Is that Rhea Ripley's cool. She's pulling off this gimmick. Really, and it works. Maybe in the way that New Day is struggling with their gimmick currently. This crowd is responding to the Rhea Ripley gimmick, and it's a good direction for her to go with like the black hair and the tattoos and the badass thing, So I think it's really working for her.
Agreed. It was worth the wait to see Rhea Ripley wrestle tonight, wasn't it?
For sure. And she looked good in there. Anything else we want to talk about here? Because we're doing the Italian goodbye.
We now are into the Italian goodbye, aren't we? We're doing it now.
We're officially in.
I feel like Michael Cole. I've said road to WrestleMania several times.
Right. It's because
this SmackDown finally felt like the road to WrestleMania. It's like the road to WrestleMania. Like WrestleMania is coming up, and we're like driving on a road. Like our destination is WrestleMania 39, and we've got to get there. We've got to travel there. We're on the road.
You might as well be pointing at the sign, like they always do right now.
I need a sign in my apartment somewhere. So I can just I can put it behind me, or so I got to superimpose the WrestleMania sign behind me,
Oh, they always do the point, and they still do it. It's crazy. They have this huge obnoxious sign, and then they're like, "That's where I'm gonna go," and then they point to the sign. Every person.
And tonight was the first time it worked,
right? Because you're like, "Oh yeah, we are kind of getting into the groove here."
Tonight's the first time it wasn't just like an awkward prop. Tonight it mattered.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Tonight felt like the road to WrestleMania. Physicality, gravitas,
Oh, yeah.
road to WrestleMania.
WrestleMania superstar. All right. Well,
Wrestlers, damn it. I'm Bizarro Vince. I want everyone to be called a wrestler.
right. You're the opposite. All right, Dom. Well, as always, thanks so much for joining, everyone. We always say it, subscribe, comment, like, do all that stuff.
And delve into our library. We've been doing this a few months now. Go ahead and while you're here, watch something else from our channel. We've got plenty of shorts up there. We've got some clips that we made that go anywhere from like 3 to 10 to maybe sometimes even 20 minutes that we chunk out of these live streams. Go watch your favorite live stream if you want. Watch us at the 1.5 speed or something to speed it up. We're doing this right after the show, so we do pause a little bit to catch our breath and to collect our thoughts. But yeah, watch something else from our channel. We've got a lot of stuff waiting for you. A lot of stuff that I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of some of the work we've been doing so far. We're not perfect, we're learning, we're getting better, but I think we got some pretty cool content out there. Go browse what we have to offer you.
Yeah, can't say it better myself, Dom. It's been a lot of fun as we've been revving up here, and we're only a couple weeks away from WrestleMania, so we will be pushing some additional content. We're looking to do certain matchups. We'll be sending little videos about certain matchups, so shorter videos about what we think, and stay tuned for all that. And hey, this was SmackDown. This is Don't Bury the Lead. Dom, thanks so much for joining with me tonight, and everybody that's watching, appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your evening.